No one prepares you for this part. Not the silence after she leaves, but the ache of realizing you gave everything. And somehow, it still wasn't enough. You were kind. You were steady. You were the man who always showed up. And yet she slipped away like sand through open fingers. This video isn't about blame. It's about understanding a truth most men were never taught. She wasn't loyal to what you did. She was loyal to what she felt. And when that feeling faded, so did she. But this story isn't about losing her. It's about finding you again. Stay with me, because what you'll hear next might change the way you love forever. Chapter 1. The feeling she no longer feels. She never loved you for the dinners, the long drives, or the late-night talks where you stayed up trying to make her laugh after a hard day. She never stayed because you fixed the sink or remembered the anniversary. Those things were beautiful, but they weren't the reason her soul leaned toward you in the first place. What held her wasn't your consistency. It was the way her chest fluttered, soft and sudden, when your voice called her name across a crowded room. The stillness she felt sitting beside you when neither of you had to speak. The gravity in the air when you reached for her hand without asking. She was never loyal to your resume of love. She was loyal to how she felt in your presence. And that feeling is fragile. You see, a woman like her listens with more than her ears. She listens with her skin, her heartbeat, the way her breath catches without reason when you're near. And when that rhythm changes, when your presence no longer awakens something within her, she begins to drift. Not in anger, not at first, but like autumn leaves pulled by a wind they can't resist. Quiet, gradual, undeniable. And it confuses you, because nothing obvious happened. You still show up, you still care. You're still doing the things a man is told he should do. But love doesn't live in the list. It lives in the feeling. And feelings, like tides, don't ask for permission before they go out. She doesn't keep score. She doesn't remember the dozen sacrifices you made in silence. She remembers the way your energy once lit up a room, how your certainty made her feel safe, how your quiet strength grounded her even on her worst days. And now, that feeling is gone. Not because you failed, but because over time you stopped being and started performing. You showed up with effort, but not essence. You offered safety, but not presence. And though she tried to hold on, to will the spark back into life, her soul couldn't lie. She doesn't know how to stay where her heart no longer rises. She doesn't know how to fake aliveness. And so she leaves, not with a dramatic exit, but with a soft absence, a fading touch, a growing quiet. Until one day, you realize she's no longer in the room, even when she's sitting right beside you. That's the truth most men never see until it's too late. She wasn't loyal to what you gave her. She was loyal to what she felt when you were near. And when that feeling vanished, so did her belonging. Chapter 2. When the world moves faster than love. There was a time when love took root slowly. When glances held meaning and silence wasn't awkward, it was sacred. A time when two people didn't need to feel everything all the time to stay. They just needed each other. But that time is slipping away. In today's world, feelings have an expiration date, shorter than ever before. Everything is instant. Instant connection. Instant dopamine. Instant validation. And when something doesn't give that rush anymore, the heart, conditioned by modern chaos, starts searching elsewhere. Not always consciously, but quietly, dangerously. She doesn't mean to look past you. She doesn't wake up and plan betrayal. But one morning, she scrolls through her phone and stumbles on a voice, a message, a moment that makes her feel something she hasn't felt in a while. And that spark, even if artificial, pulls her away from you more than your years of loyalty can pull her back. It's not about cruelty. It's about conditioning. She has been taught, without ever being told, that feelings are oxygen, that she should never settle for emotional stillness, that every moment should feel like the first kiss. And when it doesn't, she panics, because no one told her that the most lasting love doesn't feel like fire every day. Sometimes it feels like coals glowing under ash, quiet, warm, steady. But steady doesn't trend. Steady doesn't ping her notifications. Steady doesn't write poetry in her inbox or double tap her photos from 3 months ago. So she swings from you to someone who makes her feel new again. This is monkey branching. She doesn't let go until another hand is reaching. Another voice is stirring her. Another man is showing her the kind of emotional gravity she once felt with you, whether it's real or just well-crafted illusion. She says, "I need space." She says, "It's not you, it's me." And maybe she believes it. But the truth is quieter. I don't feel it anymore, and I don't know how to stay somewhere that no longer stirs me. You wonder how all your love could be so easily forgotten, how everything you built could vanish like breath on a window pane. But the truth is, in this fast-moving world, emotion is currency, and she's chasing what makes her feel rich again. And if you try to win her back with more giving, more doing, more trying, you'll lose her faster. Because it's not about doing more, it's about being more present, more grounded, more anchored than the noise trying to pull her away. In a world that spins too fast for meaning to keep up, the only men who keep her heart are the ones who don't move with the crowd, but stand still enough to be felt. Chapter 3. The more you gave, the less she felt. At first it made sense. You thought if you just stayed longer, tried harder, loved deeper, she would feel it again. You offered more time. You silenced your own needs. You said yes when you meant not tonight. You softened your voice, made your opinions smaller, tucked away the parts of yourself that might cause friction, not because you were weak, but because you were afraid that one misstep might tip her away forever. But the more you gave, the more her touch grew colder. The more patient you became, the more distant she seemed. And one day you found yourself beside her, yet completely alone, a ghost in the shape of a good man. You didn't understand. You had done everything they told you love required. You were consistent, reliable, generous. You didn't argue. You didn't abandon. But here's the truth no one warns you about. Love doesn't breathe well when it's wrapped in fear. She didn't pull away because you weren't nice enough. She pulled away because somewhere in all that giving, you stopped being real. Your love, once strong and steady, became laced with need. Not the healthy kind, but the kind that watches her mood before speaking. The kind that adjusts to avoid conflict. The kind that walks on eggshells while calling it devotion. And she felt it. Not consciously maybe, but viscerally. Women are finely tuned instruments. They feel the tremble beneath the offering. They can sense when your kindness is rooted in fear, not in power. And when they feel that shift, they stop trusting it. She doesn't need your surrender. She needs your truth. Not your performance, but your presence. The quiet knowing of a man who doesn't disappear just to keep her love alive. You see, love, real love, doesn't come from appeasement. It comes from centeredness. From the man who remains who he is, even when she's storming, even when she's hurting, even when she's unsure. That kind of presence calms her, grounds her, pulls her back without words. Thomas, 63, thought he was doing everything right. Dinner on the table, gas in her car, flowers without occasion. No fights, no drama. And yet she left. "I know you love me," she said, "but I can't feel you anymore." That sentence cracked something open in him, because it was true. He had given everything except himself. He had become a mirror to her moods, a shell shaped around her desires. And what she had fallen in love with wasn't the perfection, but the presence, the gravity, the fire that said, "This is who I am," even when you waver. In trying to become her safety, he had erased his edge. And love without edge doesn't burn, it flickers and dies. So remember this, a woman doesn't fall for how much you do. She falls for who you are, especially when it's hard. And if you disappear just to keep her, you'll lose her long before she walks away. Chapter 4. Her words weren't anchors. She said she'd never leave. She whispered it in the dark, curled into your chest, her breath warm against your skin. She said you were the one, said no matter what happened, she'd stay. And in that moment you believed her. Because you wanted to, because she believed it too. But now you're standing in the middle of a life you built together, and she's not in it anymore. And you keep repeating those words in your mind as if they might rewrite what's already been undone. But she said she'd never leave. The truth is painful. Not because she lied, but because you thought her words were a promise carved in stone. They weren't. They were written in water. Soft, fleeting, true only in the moment she said them. Because a woman doesn't speak from logic. She speaks from feeling. Her words are weather, beautiful, wild, and changeable. They rise with the tides in her heart, shift with the winds of her body's wisdom. You are taught as a man to believe that words are oaths, that if someone gives you their word, it should stand even when the sky falls. But she lives in a different rhythm. She's not betraying you when her feelings fade. She's not abandoning a vow. She's following the compass inside her chest, one that doesn't point north, but points toward aliveness. She didn't leave because she stopped meaning what she once said. She left because she stopped feeling it. And that's the ache most men don't know how to process. Because you held on to what she said instead of watching what she showed. You reminded her of the promises, of the mornings she told you she'd never love another, of the letters she wrote, the way she cried in your arms. But she looked away, not because those moments were false, but because she no longer lives in them. Those words belong to the version of her that once felt safe and soft and alive with you. But now, that version has vanished, and so has the meaning behind the words. She's not cruel. She's not calculating. She's just moved. Quietly, emotionally, spiritually. And she doesn't know how to love from a place that no longer feels like home. So what do? You stop quoting what she said. You stop asking her to explain a feeling she no longer carries. You stop needing her words to make sense of the silence. And instead, you listen to the truth her distance is screaming. You read the story her absence is writing, a story not of betrayal but of change. Because the feminine doesn't lie, she shifts. And if you try to hold her to yesterday's truth, you'll keep breaking in the face of tomorrow's reality. Real strength is not clinging to her promises. It's honoring your truth when hers begins to fade. Chapter 5. She doesn't want your service. She craves your presence. You did everything right. You picked up her favorite wine without asking. You warmed the car before she stepped outside. You learned to fold the towels the way she liked. You became attentive, gentle, predictable. You listened when she cried, held her through her silences, made sure the house felt like a sanctuary. And still she slipped away. Not with a slam, but with a sigh, with a slow retreat, with laughter that didn't quite reach her eyes anymore. And you stood there wondering, what did I miss? You didn't miss anything, love. You just mistook service for presence. She never asked for a butler in disguise. She wanted a man, not the kind who solves every problem before she names it, but the kind who carries stillness, a rootedness that doesn't disappear when her emotions surge. Because here's what no one tells you. She doesn't feel safe when you agree to everything. She doesn't feel love when you anticipate every mood. She feels pressure, expectation, a quiet, suffocating guilt that she's being cared for by someone she can't feel. You became so focused on keeping her happy that you forgot how to stay whole, how to say no without fear, how to hold your ground with warmth but without apology. And slowly she stopped leaning in, because something inside her could sense that the man she once admired was fading beneath the kindness. She doesn't want you to be perfect. She doesn't need you to say the right thing every time. She just wants to feel you, to sense that there is something unshakable in you, something steady enough to calm her storms, not by solving them, but by refusing to be moved by them. Thomas once said, "I gave her everything. I never raised my voice. I never made her wait. And when she left, she looked him in the eye and whispered, I never felt you." That one sentence hit harder than any scream, because it was the truth. He had been present in form, but absent in energy. Women don't fall in love with your acts of love. They fall in love with the man behind the acts, with the quiet fire, the gentle but firm no, the spine that doesn't bend with every breeze. That's what she's drawn to. Not comfort, but contrast. Not performance, but presence. So before you offer her another gift, before you cook another meal or write another message, ask yourself, am I giving this because it's who I am? Or because I'm afraid she won't stay if I stop? Because she can feel the difference. And she doesn't want a man who disappears to keep her. She wants a man who stays true to himself, even when loving her gets hard. That kind of man she doesn't walk away from. Final reflection. The man she was drawn to is still there. Some endings don't come with slammed doors or shouted goodbyes. Some endings feel like fog, rolling in slowly, softening the edges of what once felt certain. One day she just stopped reaching for your hand. She sat beside you, but her soul was already elsewhere. And though the house still smelled like her shampoo, and the coffee still brewed at 7:15 sharp, you knew something was gone. And not because you stopped loving her, but because somewhere along the way, you stopped loving you. You gave, and gave, and gave until your edges wore down to keep the peace, until your voice grew quieter than her moods, until you started measuring your worth by her reaction. But she didn't fall in love with a man who tried to please. She fell in love with the quiet steadiness of someone who didn't flinch, with the presence that didn't shift with her every storm, with the fire that burned low and calm, even when she couldn't feel her own warmth. You thought love was something you had to earn, but it never was. It was something you carried long before she walked into your life, and it's still there beneath the silence. This chapter was never about losing her. It was about remembering you. The man who didn't chase validation. The man who didn't bend himself to be worthy. The man who stood, not because someone stayed, but because he knew who he was, even when they left. So if your hands are empty now, if your heart feels like a room someone walked out of, don't rush to fill it. Don't cover the silence with noise. Sit in it. Let it speak. Because the man she was drawn to was never the one who gave the most. He was the one who knew how to remain. Still, sure, steady. You are not broken. You are simply returning. And when you stand in that truth, the kind of woman who truly sees you won't need to be convinced. She'll feel you.